Have you ever wondered what happens when a war hero has his honor stripped by the authorities in broad daylight? In Portland, Michael Torres, a 75-year-old former Marine, was forced to endure the mayor's public mockery right in front of Laurelhurst Park, sparking widespread outrage. A moment that seemed destined to be forgotten was suddenly illuminated by a volunteer's video. Can a band of veterans restore his dignity? And how will that little wooden house transform an entire community? Morning mist lay silently over the canopy. Each tiny droplet sparkled like a gem upon the fragile nylon fabric. Michael Torres's tent, a 75-year-old hermit hidden in the city's shadow, heard the weary sigh of autumn wind. Yellow leaves swayed and fluttered to the ground, tracing a hazy path at his feet. He sat motionless, back slightly bent, hands trembling as he stitched a frayed tent hook. Each needle's pull a tolling bell, summoning memories of wounds carried and times long past. The honk of distant horns echoed, mingling with hurried footsteps, like the drumbeat of a sleepless city, sounds of luxury in which he was but a ghost. Michael endured the bone-chilling cold, arms wrapped tightly around himself, clutching for warmth that would not come. Drizzle swept across his face, painting blurred streaks on his rusted wireframe glasses. He blinked, wiped away tears without thinking, not from pain, but from the vertigo of two worlds colliding. Then a sharp voice boomed from a loudspeaker like a dagger's thrust. "Do we stand by and let him live like this? A 75-year-old veteran camping here is only mucking up the park." Each word spat into the air, freezing it in place. Michael looked up. His gaze met faces passing by, some curious, some scornful, most indifferent. He felt every sigh, every glance slide past, and in that moment, his heart constricted with pain. The image of the mayor appeared on the speaker's platform, his polished suit gleaming, posture rigid as steel. His finger jabbed angrily. A mocking grin twisted his powerful face. Michael felt a current of rage pierce his chest. Yet he remained silent, lips sealed, as though to preserve each word of humiliation within. Inside him, memories surged, bombs screaming overhead, sparks flying as he plunged through smoke and flame to rescue comrades. Time and again he had faced death's gate. Time and again he believed he survived to tell the tale. Now, alone in this thin mist, he felt every sacrifice, every hardship, cruelly negated by venomous words. But then, in the depths of despair, something flashed to life, a steadfast pride embedded in a Marine's marrow. He exhaled deeply, his hands stilled. His eyes gleamed with a quiet fire, not blind fury, but resolute calm. Michael realized, though the tent was torn, though the words cut deep, his spirit remained unbroken. He rose slowly. The tent swayed with the breeze. His threadbare clothes clung to his frail frame, but his gaze was steely. He stepped toward the tree line where the narrow park exit lay, seeking a new spark of hope. The mayor's figure receded behind the loudspeaker post, yet in Michael's chest, the flame of camaraderie and honor blazed fiercer than ever. Michael Santiago Torres left his 18-year-old youth with determined eyes, his heart brimming with the desire to defend his country. The image of that young Marine, his face wide-eyed, laced with uncertainty, stepping off the transport ship docked at San Diego Naval Base, marked the beginning of a tumultuous journey through Southeast Asian battlefields. Each day in the jungle fields, under nights pierced only by rocket whistles and ear-splitting cries, etched itself into his soul like indelible scars. In 1976, the hidden tragedy aboard the USS Everspace carved both horror and fierce pride into his memory. That night, the steel fortress shuddered. Fire erupted with savage intensity, black smoke curling like a living nightmare. In the engine room, lit only by the flicker of aged oxygen tanks, Michael heard metal splinter, smelled the acrid sting of burning fuel. Without hesitation, his calloused hand groped through debris. He yanked an unconscious comrade from the inferno. 12 lives were saved by his decisive cuts of the rescue shears. Blood poured from a deep shoulder wound, but Michael felt no pain, for he knew that letting go would snuff out the hope of saving them all. His military career was not defined by that moment alone. Each dawn brought a new trial, waking in a straw hut to the alarm horn echoing through the untamed forest, bracing against the bone-chilling cold of Camp Leatherneck's winter. Under the flickering yellow lamp in the barracks, Michael kept a journal, each line a homesick plea, each word a solemn vow. The brutal war taught him resilience. Amid smoke and gunfire, a young man's heart became as solid as a steel shield. Amid the devastation, he learned that the greatest treasure was not medals or glory, but his comrades, sharing every grain of rice, every drop of water, fighting together for tomorrow. Not until 1985, when the military issued his discharge papers, did Michael stand silent, gazing at the rusted insignia on his chest. He stepped down from the ship, bound for Portland, engulfed by emptiness. His gleaming medals were tucked away in an old wooden box, where only he knew the behind-the-scenes stories. Nights spent awaiting orders, hurried meals wrapped in a single sheet, the hush before the storm of mortar and gunfire. Upon his return, Michael sought out the VFW, a place where laughter mixed with the knock of greeting. Men in faded dress blues spoke of distant battle lines. He joined quietly, sharing his experiences, igniting passion in the next generation. But civilian life was no battlefield. There, psychological wounds smoldered on. Night after night, he dreamed of sirens, jolted awake in his cramped room. Nightmares of comrades' screams, of helplessness as flames engulfed the man beside him, tormented his soul. By day, his body weakened, his health waned. Each step grew more arduous. Pain pulsed from his knee joints, a reminder of days spent carrying a rifle through rugged mountains. As his benefits dwindled, Michael could no longer live independently. He meant to return to the VFW for aid, but veteran pride held him back. Instead, he packed his past away. He trekked slowly to Laurelhurst Park. Beneath a bent lamppost, a nylon tent sprouted like a punctuation mark on a new, lonely chapter. Solitude and abandonment, yet unbowed. Now, Michael sits by the flickering streetlight, eyes thoughtful as passers-by move on. His medals glow faintly in the yellow light when he accidentally touches them, proof of a heroic era. Yet now, they are memories hidden deep within an old soldier's heart. The feeling of being forgotten washes over him, yet his dignity stands unshaken. Michael knows that even as the world spins, even if he is mocked, camaraderie and honor cannot be cast aside. In his soul, that fire still smolders, and as darkness recedes, a spark of hope flickers within, waiting for a brother's hand to ignite it. So, dear viewers, get ready for a story that will leave you in awe. Take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if you truly connect with what I'm sharing here, and leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always thrilling to see people joining us from every corner of the globe. When the video of Portland's mayor appeared on local television, Michael was caught off guard. The image of a powerful man in an expensive suit, pointing his finger directly at Michael's tent, accompanied by public derision, reverberated in his mind like an unending battle drum. In an instant, everything spiraled out of control. The mayor's words laid bare callousness, igniting public outrage. Michael felt his chest tighten as he heard those cutting remarks. He sat with bowed head, yet his heart raced with urgency. Hours later, his old phone buzzed sharply with an automated news alert. The Oregonian asks, "Is the mayor justified in targeting a homeless veteran?" The comments below teemed with anger and sorrow. Some praised him, some condemned, but most stood with Michael. Thousands of shares and replies. An online storm, yet charged with real-world power. At first, Michael felt bewildered. He wondered, do I deserve this attention? The image of his tattered tent flashed in his mind, battle relics rotting beneath thin nylon. He trembled, not from cold, but from anxiety over what lay ahead. Yet as waves of sympathetic messages appeared, Michael discovered a new side of himself. He still mattered. He still held a place in people's hearts. Soon afterward, a quiet network of volunteers began to emerge. No fanfare, no trumpets. They brought steaming bowls of porridge. They offered warm blankets and tender smiles. Each care package in their hands was a soft pat on a wounded heart. Michael watched, feeling warmth rise within him. He gazed at those outstretched hands and wondered how veteran pride had once buried his own dignity, forcing him to live in hiding. On social platforms, the hashtag #HomeForTorres rose like a cleansing wind over dusty memories. It was not just letters on a screen, but a clarion call to conscience. Volunteer footage of Michael accepting a warm bowl, his hands trembling in gratitude, was liked and shared endlessly. Every interaction was a communal heartbeat aligned with his own, an affirmation. We are here. We have not forgotten. Michael sat still, eyes scanning each line on his phone's screen. He saw every tone, from tender words of comfort to public outrage. When leaders stay silent, the people must speak. Emotions welled within him. For the first time in years, he realized he was not alone. His faith in humanity, his trust in community, surged anew. On the first night after the video went viral, Michael could not sleep. He sat in his tent, flashlight illuminating his metals coated in time's dust. Circles of light danced across the wooden box's surface, as if beckoning him to reach out with trembling fingers. He gently lifted each metal, his heart shimmering with emotion, pride for living fully as a veteran, gratitude for strangers' compassion, regret for letting himself slip into darkness. Portland woke up with Michael's story on its lips. People spoke of him not as a pitiable figure, but as a living symbol of courage and pride. Passers-by paused before his tent, saluted him, not merely out of respect for his age, but out of reverence for the unparalleled story behind those solemn eyes. Michael Torres, once a homeless veteran, was now at the center of attention, a triumphant testament to the power of empathy and unity. And in that very moment, Laurelhurst's once bleak scene no longer reflected loneliness. It became a gateway to opportunity, where Michael could stand tall and wait for the next miracle. The moment the hashtag #HomeForTorres exploded, a network of former Marines from every corner began to reach out. The simple rallying cry, "What can we do for Torres?" echoed across the web. In solemn determination, they gathered in an old supply warehouse tucked between Portland's streets. Under flickering neon lights, their figures stood silent yet resolute. No instructions were needed. They understood their mission: to rebuild a veteran's faith in his Marine family. At their forefront was former Captain Jackson "Jack" Miller, Torres's comrade throughout the Southeast Asia campaign. When Jack arrived, he carried both stern gravitas and deep responsibility. From across the yard, he eyed Torres thoughtfully. That weary face with blankets slung over shoulder was bound to memories of firestorms where brotherhood had saved lives. Jack tapped lightly on a wooden crate beside a stack of planks, then spoke in a low voice. "We're not just building a house, we're restoring a Marine's trust in his own family." Inside the closed warehouse bay, footsteps blended with the buzz of saws and ring of hammers. The team split tasks, some selecting lumber, others measuring, still others drilling holes for screws. Sweat beaded their brows. Each strike of a hammer drove home the motto, Semper Fidelis, always faithful. Their focus made time seem to pause. No one bantered. Only the presence of Marines united in defending a comrade's honor. Michael Torres stood beyond the makeshift fence, watching it all unfold. His mind swirled with emotions, astonishment giving way to deep gratitude. He had never imagined a nationwide Marine community banding together to build him a home. When Jack invited him to help secure the final board, his hands trembled as they touched the wood's edge. Rough veins stood out against salty sweat. He drove in the last nail while watching Jack's every movement, as though reading the unspoken message. "We honor you." For the next 5 days, the work never ceased. At dawn, they assembled. At dusk, they silently inspected every joint. The planks formed a sturdy frame. The nails shaped a future. Each Marine told himself, this is more than construction. It's proof of gratitude, of lives transformed when someone stands up for you. As the frame neared completion, inside they arranged a small bed refurbished from reclaimed wood, spread a new blanket, and placed a small table for Michael's tarnished medals. On the opposite wall hung a dignified inscription, Michael S. Torres, U.S. Marine Corps, 1967 to 1985. Warm yellow light illuminated every detail. Jack and the others stepped back, allowing Michael to take in the handiwork. In his eyes, one could see a sky of memories and hope. The handover took place in Laurelhurst Park, before a circle of reporters, volunteers, and neighbors. Jack placed the keys in Michael's hand. His fingers shook as he accepted them, yet the smile he forced carried all the glory of a victor. Jack whispered, as though carried by the dry breeze, "You showed us the true meaning of honor. Now, we give you this home." Those words struck Michael's heart. He could not hold back tears. When Michael stepped into his new home, a sudden calm enveloped him. Each step was heavy, yet steady. He surveyed the wooden floor beneath his feet, the light glowing on the wall emblem, the quiet formation of Marines standing outside. This was no mere shelter. It was living glory, a powerful declaration. Even in the darkest times, the light of comradeship will guide the way. The story of that little house by the park was not tabloid fodder. It was proof of empathy's power and collective duty. Marines framed walls, laid shingles, swept floors. Each silent act rang with the vow, Semper Fidelis. They refused to allow a sacrifice for freedom to be forgotten. They affirmed that those who gave their all would never be left behind. And in that moment, as Michael sat on the wooden chair by the door, hand resting on his medals, he understood. History is not only carved in stone or written in books, it continues in acts of kindness. This home was not an ending, but a beginning. He smiled, eyes shining, ready to write the next chapter of his life, not on the sidelines, but embraced at the center of his beloved Marine family. They said his life had run dry of hope. But when he first touched that key, Michael Torres understood a new chapter was beginning. The 4-meter-long, 3-meter-wide wooden house stood proudly amid Laurelhurst Park, its insulated metal roof reflecting the dawn light, its glass door shimmering like eyes full of promise. Above the gate, a neat plaque read, Michael S. Torres, U.S. Marine Corps, 1967 to 1985. That was more than a name carved in wood. It was a reminder of a storied past and a pledge to the future. On Sunday morning, Michael woke before sunrise, his breath tinged with the scent of fresh wood stain. He stepped slowly onto the front porch, where the boards still radiated warmth after the veteran's labors. A faint smile played at his lips. He traced each grain, each plank, each joint sealed by nails, marks of brotherhood and silent devotion. Clutching his old jacket, he placed a hand over his heart, as if to preserve the fervor carried from distant battlegrounds. At 9 o'clock prompt, Jack Miller and his fellow Marines appeared in silent formation. They lined up in 2 rows and saluted solemnly. The click of cameras in the press, the soft drum beat over the loudspeaker, dozens of volunteers, hundreds of eager eyes, yet the moment's center was Michael, the man who had weathered bullets, now standing among brothers, ready to receive the greatest gift of all, a home. Jackson Miller, hair speckled with gray, stance still unbowed in his old uniform, stepped forward. He nodded, emotion glistening in his eyes. Lifting a gleaming brass key in his left hand, he spoke in a husky yet clear voice. Michael, this house is not just for you. It's for our story. To remind everyone that honor never fades. Miller's smile was as warm as a final campfire glow on a frontier night. Michael's hands trembled as he reached for the key. Bony fingers curled around it, symbol of reclaimed freedom, of a right to call this place home. As the key settled in his palm, the crowd erupted in applause, the sound heavy with feeling. Michael closed his eyes as waves of emotion crashed over him. Joy tinged with astonishment, gratitude tinged with abiding pride. He needed a moment to still his shaking hands. He breathed deeply, then whispered, Thank you, all of you. After his hesitant thanks, Michael was guided inside. The Marines had arranged everything with care. A fresh wooden bed stood ready, its mattress soft, welcoming his weary frame. On the wall, his medals glowed faintly under their velvet cloth. A small bookshelf by the window held black and white photos. The day he enlisted, the day he saved his comrades. Sunlight filtered through the glass, painting warm streaks across the floor. Michael inhaled deeply, his eyes lit with new fire. His heart sang, as if this house itself were breathing. When Michael stepped into the small yard, folding chairs set in neat rows, volunteer teenagers in uniform clumsily applauded him. Michael smiled. His gaze swept the crowd, seeking anxious faces, tense eyes, then offering reassuring nods. In that moment, he was no longer the shivering homeless veteran. He was a brother, a guide for those who felt lost. The handover ceremony ended, but the home's warmth never waned. In the days that followed, it became a gathering place. Each afternoon, Michael sat on the prepared wooden chair on the porch, welcoming anyone, from the clumsy friend bearing vegetarian meals to the recovering youth seeking direction. He spoke of his Marine days, the horn blast on ship decks, the final breaths of comrades, the power of decisiveness. His voice was calm yet weighty, leaving listeners spellbound, as though receiving life's greatest secret. His battlefield stories were more than memories. They were lessons in courage and service. Michael taught them how to keep perseverance aflame when all seemed lost. He showed each young person how to lift heavy burdens, to steady their breath in panic, and to let go of worries beyond their control. He passed on not just experience, but hope. After every session, his audience saw themselves in his tale, no longer afraid, but empowered to rise. In their eyes, Michael recognized the true meaning. A home is more than shelter. It is a channel for faith and strength. Each dusk, when sunset light painted the window frame, the sound of laughter, of pens scribbling notes, even a tear or two, all blended into a symphony of hope. When night fully fell, Michael switched off the light and listened to the hush. He smiled, as if telling himself, "Life still surprises us. Once gratitude is kindled, loneliness fades away." That small wooden house stood witness to brave hearts, and to the one thing no one can take away, the human spirit's will to overcome. A month had passed since the moment Michael Torres felt the brass key in his hand, and that warm wooden house had become a living symbol for the entire neighborhood. A few days after the handover, a handwritten letter from St. Mary's Church appeared at his gate, offering sponsorship to expand space for fellow veterans. The hurried yet heartfelt note read, "You are never alone." Michael read it over and over. His heart felt recharged, 1,000 beams of light dancing across his weathered face. The church, local schools, and small businesses all joined in. They donated materials, they shared the labor of building, they even launched job counseling programs for returning soldiers. Laurelhurst Community Center quickly organized a workshop titled From Tent to Porch. In that solemn setting, Michael shared his own story of lonely nights in a nylon tent when he thought his honor was fading like a distant memory. Cheers rose up. Silent tears traced the cheeks of others who had endured similar fates, proof of the power in reignited hope. Now, Michael stood not just under a street lamp, but on the stage of compassion. Every talk he led overflowed with attendees, veterans, at-risk youth, even those newly emerging from mental health crises. He listened to every story. He paused meaningfully before offering advice steeped in a lifetime of combat. Don't let the past tear apart your future. Each taut steel cable on the battlefield is stronger than the man who carries it. Use it to bind your hope. In the community center's cozy room, Michael taught young people how to structure daily routines. He spoke of the importance of restful sleep, of taking small steps back into society. His eyes shone with undimmed resolve. The youth listened intently. They jotted down every note. When Michael spoke of nights under bombardment, they looked at him with admiration. When he described life's pressures, they felt relief, knowing they were not alone. Beyond counsel, Michael joined in hands-on community work. He and volunteers meticulously organized the lending library. They selected books on psychology and life skills. He oversaw every meeting, constantly encouraging, "A new day is an opportunity to change." Those brief, impactful words echoed in listeners' hearts, conveying warmth and certainty. His influence spread, showing everyone that even from the lowest starting point, one can rise to the heights of hope. One weekend, Laurelhurst Park rang with children's laughter during the Little Ones and Old Marine program. Michael stood beside them, handing out small books and telling stories of teamwork, of soldiers ready to lay down their lives. The children's eyes brightened. Some ran to embrace him, seeking a share of the warmth born of sacrifice. Every now and then, Michael gently patted their heads, his gaze reflecting simple, profound joy. Day by day, unfamiliar faces became familiar friends. Utility bills, small expenses, were covered by the Veterans Support Fund. Each month, the center hosted meetings where Michael and old comrades spoke with local leaders about support policies. They discussed job training programs, mental health counseling services, and plans to build more safe homes for veterans. Every new initiative was a promise and a responsibility from the community to those who defended freedom. As dusk settled, Michael often sat alone on the front steps, gazing at Portland bathed in lamplight. The scene felt peaceful in a way he had never known. His spirit no longer felt the cold drizzle of loneliness. It brimmed with the sunshine of kind souls, of faith in justice and solidarity. He welled up with gratitude that fate had given him the chance to stand again after such painful falls. He whispered softly, "This is home. This is a beginning." Michael's journey, from homeless veteran to inspiring mentor, was not just about rebuilding material life. It was the rebirth of faith. It was the spirit of semper fidelis, urging comrades to stand together. When a community rises to protect one who once protected the nation, it sends a powerful message. No one is left behind. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always exciting to see someone tuning in from around the world. Comment number 1, if you found the story compelling, so we can continue bringing you even more great stories.